Introduce me, like slowly. Want to introduce me? No, don't wait. It's like right at 9:30. Yeah. Here we go.
All right, guys, take a seat.
Beginning is the best part. Now, so let's go.
Okay, we're going to start our second class tonight. Our next speaker's name is over here, full Sate. The topic is Kiruv Krovim. Till now, we've heard a lot of classes on outreach. And generally, we think of outreach, we think of Jews that aren't affiliated, not religious. But today's class will focus on those that grew up religious, that are struggling, and are off the derech, as colloquially called. And it's a big schus to have with us a speaker that speaks around the Kiruv circuit. He's talented, he shows a love for the Jewish people, he has a wonderful sense of humor, and it's a big honor to call upon Rabbi Rafal Sate from Ramat Beit Shemesh, who came all the way in to give a class on Kiruv Krovim. Please give him your undivided attention.
Shavua Tov, everybody. Good talk. Just going to collect my thoughts. I didn't have time to do that yet. Shuda? Mo? Yeah. Can you go downstairs and see if I dropped the paper in the room I was in? I don't usually start my classes with that tefillah. You stole it? Nope. You just say you took it. I don't usually start my classes with that tefillah, although I probably should. But since tonight's topic of Kiruv Krovim is so very important, there's literally no one that is not touched by it. I personally have nephews and nieces that are not the way their parents would hope they would be, or not the way they grew up. I doubt very highly there's anyone in this room that tonight's topic doesn't affect. So, to understand the importance, severity of tonight's top class, I'd like to start off with that special tefillah, that the Ribbono Shalom give me the right words to inspire. "15 years ago, actually 16, 17, 18. I live around by Shemesh 18 years now. 18 years ago, the following story happened. I'm going to not change any of the names to protect the innocent. So, if you've been to Ramat Beit Shemesh for Shabbos, please raise your hand. Okay? Whoever hasn't, please see someone's hand that was up. They'll take you. Ramat Beit Shemesh used to be a little town. Hard to believe. There was one or two shuls. This happened in Beis Tefillah when it was still in the parking lot. There was a fellow that drove to shul right before Mincha on Erev Shabbos. Please raise your hand if you've ever done that. Please keep your hand up if you're not sure if you were Mechal Shabbos or not. So this is how it goes sometimes. It's like, where did you put the key? Where's the car? Just throw the keys somewhere. As hoping that wasn't Shkia yet. So this fellow threw his keys on top of the nearest Svarim trunk as soon as he walked into shul. Because that's a very safe place. Later on that evening, a 15-year-old boy from Ramat Shemesh Bet found the keys and took the car for a joyride on Friday night and crashed and died. This is not the funny part of the class, by the way. I know he said I was going to be funny, but I'm not. We'll get funnier later. The Levaya was that week, and there was not a minyan. From family buried their child, there was not a minyan. I personally was not at the Levaya, but later on that week, the Boston Rebbe from Brooklyn, who's the Boston Rebbe from Boston and then Har Nof, they've both passed away since. He spoke twice, once in Hebrew, once in English. And I was there when he spoke, and it was one of the most inspiring moments in my life. The Boston Rebbe said, he started off screaming and crying. He told over this story, and he said, there wasn't a minyan at the Levaya. How is that possible? And he said, I want to share with you some of the reasons why people told me that they didn't go to the Levaya. And he said, the first one was like this. They said to me, Rebbe, he was a Mechalel Shabbos B'Farhesia. What do you expect? He said, the other thing is, he said, Rebbe, if you knew the family, you would understand. As in, how this happened to them, how they had a child like this, and why no one went to the Levaya. And the Rebbe cried and screamed, and he said, this could have been your child. This could have been my child. And there wasn't a minyan at the Levaya. Kiruv Krovim. The Rebbe had an absolutely revolutionary idea of how to completely change the chinuch system. And I honestly believe that it would have hastened, it would have brought Mashiach closer. And one of the reasons that the Rebbe got sick right afterwards, and it was never implemented, and I honestly believe that we simply were not zocheh to have this unbelievable change. The Rebbe spoke about imagining if instead of chinuch being the way it is today, if there was a board, a committee in every community, and the committee was responsible for each child being in the system that they belonged in. And if there was a problem in the yeshiva, in school, the parents would not go to the principal and beg and cry. They would go to the committee, and the committee would speak to the principal or the hanhala or the administration, and they would be charged. Their mission would be making sure that every child is where they're supposed to be. Imagine speaking to a principal as an equal, we understand that this child doesn't belong here. Let's figure out together where he does belong. And you take out the emotional attachment, and everyone, it was just revolutionary. Everyone could, Chanoch Nar al Pi Darko could be something that was across the board that everyone would be responsible for. Ata chanein le'adam das melamed le'enos bina. Kiruv Krovim. How old is Kiruv Krovim? How important is Kiruv Krovim? So, I'd like to start with introducing you to a young woman. Her name was Leah. She had a last name. It was Imenu. Want to remember her? I like to say that the Avos and Imos had last names Avraham. See how that works? Yitzchak, Yaakov, Moshe. Yosef, David. See, it's like fun. Okay, so we meet Leah in the beginning of Bereshis, Parshas Vayetze, Pasuk Tez Zayin. Ulelavan shtei banos. Shem hagdola Leah, v'shem haktana Rachel. Lavan had, of course, Rivka's brother, had 2 children. The name of the elder daughter was Leah, the younger girl was Rachel. And the pasuk goes on to introduce us to Rachel and Leah. Ve'ene Leah rakos. Leah's eyes were tender. I'm reading from the Art Scroll translation. V'Rachel ha'isa yifas to'ar. Okay? Very interesting, right? The pasuk is seemingly explaining to us the defining outward characteristics of these 2 young women. The first thing you saw about Rachel was that she was a yifas to'ar. That's what the pasuk says. We need to explain it. We need to have a different class why the pasuk thinks that's important to share with us. We're going to leave that alone for the moment. But Leah, we're told, the same way that if you met Rachel, you would notice right away her beauty. If you met Leah, you would notice right away that what? That she was crying all the time. That's what the pasuk's telling us. The same way that Rachel wore her external beauty, she didn't take it off at night. She didn't take it out when she left the house. That was it. That was who she was. Leah was Eine Leah Rakos. Leah was a crier. She was someone that cried all day and all night. The Gemara tells us that Leah cried so much that her eyelashes fell out. Okay? Anyone ever have a sty? Conjunctivitis? No one in this room has ever had a sty. That's unbelievable. It's like a statistical impossibility. Oh, he's the one guy that had... What's your name?
Shaul.
Shaul what?
Paris.
Where are you from?
Iran.
Was it recently?
No, like a year. I get it like every year.
You might want to wait. They're very contagious.
I don't have it now.
Oh, you're good now. Okay.
Yeah.
So you know in the sty they tell you not to rub?
Yeah.
Why?
It gets worse.
I don't know. I always wonder, they say it's because it's contagious, and then it's going to get in the other eye. I always wondered, if you have it in both eyes, can you rub then? I don't think so, right? They still... Okay. She cried so much and was rubbing her eyes so much that her eyelashes fell out. Those of you that are not familiar with mascara, it's to make your eyelashes look longer. It's not pretty if you don't have eyelashes at all. Eine Leah Rakos. This is who she was. What was she crying about? Rashi tells us, Shahaisa Sivura. She was under the impression that she was destined la'alos begorel shel Esav. She was going to have to marry Esav, her first cousin. Why? Uvocha. And because of that, she cried all the time. Why did she think she was going to marry Esav? Shehayu hakal omrim. Everyone would say, Shnei banim l'Rivka. Rivka has 2 boys. Ushtei banos l'Lavan, and Lavan has 2 girls. Hagdola lagadol. The older one is going to obviously marry the older daughter. V'haktana lakatan, and the younger daughter is going to marry the younger. And those of you that have first cousins, your age, are now thinking what's going to happen, because this is Shayua Kol Omrim, right? This is how it works. What was Leah's sechar for davening and crying and hoping that she would not have to marry Esav Harasha? Oh, there's another one. What was her schar? Anybody? This was interactive, right? Menashe, we told people it was going to be interactive? Okay, she got to marry Yaakov and have what? 6 Shvatim, more Shvatim than any of the other Imahos, and Dinah. This was her schar for davening, bocha, crying, hoping, praying that she wouldn't have to la'alos b'garolo shel Esav. Good? Okay. So, just together, everybody, sounds like not marrying Esav is a good thing. Got that? We'll do it again. Sounds like not marrying Esav is a good thing. Okay. Parshas Vayishlach. We move ahead a few prakim, and we're meeting Yaakov on his way back from Lavan's house. He's about to meet Esav. Okay? The pasuk says in Perek Lamed Beis, pasuk Chav Gimel, Vayakam Balayla Hu, Vayikach Ashtei Nashav. He took his 2 wives as Shtei Shivchosav, the 2 Shvachos, Bilhah and Zilpah, the Es Achad Asar Yiladav, and his 11 children. Rashi jumps, does the math very quickly, and knows that he had how many children? What? 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 Why do you keep saying that? Who is that? Identify yourself. Who keeps saying 13? Come on, man up. Okay. What?
13 children.
No.
Okay.
No.
The pasuk says 13.
No. No, he had 12. But Binyamin wasn't born yet.
Okay.
Okay? Great. So Rashi said, Es achad asar yiladav. And Rashi says, Vidina heichan haisa. How does Rashi know it was Dinah? We're thinking about, but not tonight. Okay. Dinah heichan haisa. Rashi asks, where was Dinah? Because there were 12, right? Binyamin's not born. Where was Dinah? Rashi says, Nisana b'teva. He put her in a chest, in a box. V'na'al b'faneha, and he locked it. He closed it. Shelo yitain ba Esav einav. So that Esav wouldn't look at her. For those of you that are being careful with Shmiras Einayim, this is the makar, because if you look at a woman, you end up marrying her. Ulekach ne'enash Yaakov. And that is why Yaakov was punished. Shemina'a me'achiv. Because he held her back from allowing Esav to see her. Why? Shema tachzirena libutav. Because maybe if Esav did see her and marry her, she would have been able to turn him around for good, and instead, he didn't give them, that happened, and what was the punishment for this horrible thing of not letting Esav see her? Nafla biyad Shechem. The brutal attack and rape of Dinah in the hands of Shechem ben Hamor. Now I ask you, it sounds like not marrying Esav is a bad thing. Not marrying Esav is a bad thing, right? Because look what happened. What happened to Yaakov for not marrying Dinah off to Esav? And Leah couldn't have turned him around? Leah Imenu couldn't have turned?
That was Dinah's power.
That was Dinah's power. Shemina'a me'achiv. So your answer is that he needed to take a risk of marrying his daughter off to Esav. Thank you. Just in case she would have turned him around.
So in case she was able to do that with Shechem as well, by making him my first mina.
Whoa! If you did a post-game interview with Shechem, I don't think he would say that it was a happy ending. Just saying. That whole thing. I'd like to, before I give an answer of which they're on their way to understanding, I'd like to explain to you why I teach. Mrs. Goldstein. You know Mrs. Goldstein? Mrs. Goldstein goes to shul every week. She never misses. Here's the Torah. Comes. She's involved. She prepared. She knows every year Pashas Vayeshev, Mrs. Goldstein, or Mechiras Yosef, is crying. Every year. So they go over to Mrs. Goldstein. Why are you crying? She goes, it's terrible. It's horrible. A 17-year-old boy, kidnapped, sold, away into slavery by his own brothers. It's heartbreaking. Every year, Mrs. Goldstein cries. Mechiras Yosef. One year, Parshas Vayeshev, Ms. Goldstein is laughing a whole Parshas Vayeshev. She's sitting there up front. Paraphrasing. Anyway, so they go over to Ms. Goldstein. Ms. Goldstein, I understand, every year you cry, Parshas Vayeshev. Why are you so... That stupid kid, every year he goes back, every year they sell him. I don't want to sell him anymore. We learn things, especially things that we learned as kids. And we have to go back to them with the knowledge that we have now. The street smart knowledge, the Torah knowledge, the understanding knowledge. You've got to go revisit those things that you learned at every stage in life and relearn them. Or else you're just Mrs. Goldstein. What happened with Dinah and Leah? That the results, the outcomes were so different. Polar opposites. In them, in Yaakov doing the same exact thing that Leah did. And getting brutally punished because of it. So I'd like to share with you a Gemara. This Gemara is in Bab Metzia on Pei Dalet Amud Aleph. The Gemara introduces us to Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan was, of course, one of the Gedolei Adar, and we meet Rabbi Yochanan on Pei Dalet Amud Aleph in Bab Metzia. Yom Achad, one day, Havakasachi Rabbi Yochanan b'Yardena. Rabbi Yochanan was bathing in the Yarden. Chazir Reish Lakish, what does Reish Lakish mean? Rosh Lakish. He was the head of the official bandit society back then. They've since disbanded, but back then they were very popular. Reish Lakish was the head of the mafia. Reish Lakish saw the Shavar Liyardna Basrei, and he jumped across the Yarden after Rabbi Yochanan, and Amarle, Rabbi Yochanan sees this tremendous display of vitality, agility, and he says, Chelach la'oraisa, halavai, you dedicated your chayil, your valor, your strength, your dedication to the Torah. Reish Lakish says to him, Amarle, he says back to him, Rabbi Yochanan, who was very good looking, he says, Shufrach Linashi. He says, your beauty belongs to women. You're so handsome. Like, you're attacking me that I should be dedicating something that doesn't seem to belong to me to a better cause. You are very good looking. Amarle. Rabbi Yochanan says to him, Ihadris bach, if you were to be choser b'tshuva, if you were to listen to me, of chelach la'oraisa, yahivna lach achosi. Pretty much says to him, you think I'm good looking? Should meet my sister. To Shapira Minai, who's even more beautiful than I am. Reish Lakish is intrigued. Okay. That was the extent of the dating period. It was much faster back then. Kabil alei. Reish Lakish accepted upon himself this challenge of Chelach la'oraisa, and being able to marry Rabbi Yochanan's sister, the Gadol Adar's sister. And now, he wanted to go back across the Yarden to get his stuff, but he was not able to. And the Balei Musar explained to us that Rabbi Yochanan answers him that, of course, once he had just simply agreed to dedicate his chayil, his valor to the Torah, it was no longer available for the other things that he used to do with it. So he didn't have the strength to go back across the Yarden. The Gemara finishes off and says, Hadar Akriyeh V'Asniyeh, Rabbi Yochanan taught him all of the Torah. They, of course, became lifelong chavrusas, the Shavye Gavra Rabba, and made him into a great man. Of course, Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish were the next chain in the Mesorah. They became the Gedolei Hadar together. I'd like to explain what was going on with Yaakov and Esav, and why it was so different from what Leah could have or might have done with Esav. And what's your name, please, sir? Tzvi. And explain why Tzvi was right. Let's repaint this picture. Let's imagine for a moment that Yaakov did not put Dinah in the box. And he introduces all his children to Esav. And Dinah. And Esav says, who's that? Yaakov's like, that's my daughter, Dinah. He goes, oh. Is she available on Saturday night? And Yaakov says to Esav, this is something that interests you? Because if this interests you, this comes with a whole bunch of stuff. You want to be part of Beis Yaakov? You want to be part of my family? That's wonderful. Chelach la'oraisa. Dedicate yourself to the Torah, become worthy of marrying into my family, and this could be all yours. Chas v'shalom. To think that Dinah or Yaakov had to take a gamble. Shema tachziren al mutav. Chas v'shalom. To think that anyone should marry someone. Maybe I'll be able to change them. But maybe he could have committed and changed and been worthy of marrying Dinah. Chelach le'oraisa. And Tzvi. Why not the same thing by Leah? Why not say that Leah should have been punished because she didn't give that opportunity? And the answer is very simple. Who would have done that for her? Her father, Lavan? Do you understand? You needed someone that would be running in interference, right? And be like, if this is what you want, Chelach La'oraisa, playing the Rabbi Yochanan role in this thing, if you want this, get up to speed. Lavan was the last person that would have done that. Dinah and Leah understood that. She was like, it's up to me. I don't want to take that risk. I'll do everything in my power not to take that risk. Yaakov didn't need to take that risk either. But maybe Esav could have changed completely. Chelach la'oraisa, because of the missed opportunity. Nafla b'yad Shechem. Now, to be completely honest, this is something that I came up with. When you are mechadesh things in Torah, how do you know that they're right? I mean, when people. When you come up with a chiddush You need a proof, a hochacha, or else it's just cute. How do you know that this is Amita Shel Torah? Can I trouble you to hit the on-off button behind you? Just turn off the heat before I pass out. Just the on-off button's up on the right side. Gotta hit it. So, yeah, these are. Thank you. How do you know you're right? How do I know I'm right? Watch this. What ends up happening to Dina? There's something very interesting that... You're going to turn that one off also? Thank you. It's only AC if it says 21 or 22. 20 is also good. Watch this. There's something that it's actually starts off from Kabbalah and Hasidus. It still exists, obviously. And you know how like you're in a supermarket and you see an exchange between a mother and a child, and the child wants some gum from the cash register line, and the mother says no, and the child wants it, and finally the mother says, "Shut up." She doesn't really. She's thinking it. And then the child starts screaming, and it's very uncomfortable. And then finally the mother says, "I'm going to slap you if you don't be quiet." And you're standing there thinking how awkward it is, and also how that's going to help. Because if she slaps him, then he'll probably... There's a concept called onesh. Onesh is punishment. Onesh is not something that exists klape maila. There's only one thing klape maila, and that is called, anyone? Tikkun. You do something wrong, and you have the opportunity to fix it. That's what we're in this world for. Tikkun. That's our job in this world, is tikkun. Okay? Actually, we're here to be mesaken what? The chait of Adam and Chava. That's our, again, another class. But tikkun is our job. In other words, what happened to Adam and Chava, and ultimately to the complete human race, is not a punishment. It's not a slap across the face. It's the opportunity to be mesaken, to fix what they did wrong, what they changed in the Bria, and very fiber of creation, to bring it back to where the Rebbeinu Shalom thought it was going to be. Thought it could be. That is our job. Tikkun. It's very, very different than onesh. In understanding tikkun, everything that happens, klape maila, is the opportunity to fix what went wrong. So if I'm right that Yaakov did what we're saying, if Kaviyachal wrong with Dinah, then the union of Dinah and Shem must have created what? The tikkun for this wrongdoing. And who is the union? Who is the product of the tikkun of Shem and Dinah? Asnas. And who is Asnas? Asnas marries Yosef. Let's remember who Yosef was. Yosef is the poster child for an off-the-derech. Right? Think about it. Let's go through this. He's good looking. Check. He's got long, beautiful hair. Check. He's got, his mother died when he was young. Check. He doesn't get along with his brothers. He's got not any... His father favors him. Because he's... Check. Wait. He thinks he's pretty good. He's got dreams. Check. What did I forget? Oh, Brooklyn Pizza Shop on Saturday night. Okay, he's missing that one. He is the poster child of what should be an off-the-derech teenager. And what happens from Yosef? Yosef marries Asnas, and not only does he thrive, not only is he successful, he becomes the only one with children that skip a generation up and become Shvatim. So much so that to this very day, when we bless our children, we say Yisimcha Lohim K'Ephraim V'Chem Menashe, the first two that grew up outside of the Beis Yaakov system. Everyone else lived in the Beis Yaakov complex. They went to Zaydi Yaakov every Friday night. They had Pirchei and Benos groups in Yaakov's house. And Ephraim and Menashe become that. They become the poster child for any children that grew up not in a northern metropolitan Frum area. Halavai, they should be like Ephraim and Menashe. And who did Yosef achieve that with? Asnas. Asnas was the very definition of Tachzirena Limutav. She took what Yosef might have been and made him Yosef HaTzadik. You see what just happened? Chelach La'oraisa was a lost opportunity. That's how old Kiruv Krovim is. That's how important Kiruv Krovim is. Just missing the opportunity of Shema Tachzirena Lemutav. And Yaakov missed out on the greatest opportunity that he could have done, Kiruv Krovim, with his brother Esav. Now that we understand how important it is, let's understand a little bit more about it. Let's talk about opportunities, right? Because that's the name of the game. You never want to miss out on an opportunity. So before I get into the rules of Kiruv, I want to talk about opportunity. No, you know what? I'm going to get right into the rules. Here's rules. Rules of Kiruv. Now, before I go into the rules, I want to tell you about my friend. He's taking a Hatzalah course. Ever since he started the Hatzalah course a few weeks ago, he carries around a very sharp pen with him. Anyone know why? What? Safety? No, just in case he's got to do an emergency tracheotomy. You know, because if your nasal or your whole respiratory system gets blocked up here, you got to give the person any way to breathe. So you just go right in the trachea, open up hole, and then they can breathe until the chin.
Thank you. I feel better already.
Yeah. Okay? The name of this class is also Don't Do Emergency Kiruv in the Street with a Sharp Pen. Okay? And all I mean is, you're not a certified Kiruv. I'm sorry about this. I don't need to burst anyone's bubble. But you're not a certified Kiruv professional just because you took this class. Just saying. Okay? Just be careful. Okay? But seriously, rules of Kiruv. My first rule of Kiruv is don't judge. That's the first rule of Kiruv. Now, I think a lot of people in this room are thinking, I knew that I signed up for this course for the right reasons, because I am so non-judgmental. Like, I am thinking right now of 10 people that I would never judge. That guy I grew up with, and my cousin, I've never, well, he's a little bit of a different story, but yeah, there are a lot of people that I don't judge. What does it mean to not be judgmental? It's a lot more than just thinking about someone that you're not going to judge. Okay? So, of course, in understanding what it means to not be judgmental, if you have reasons why the person is that way, it's a lot easier for you not to judge them. You understand what I'm saying? It's sort of like judging, but understanding. So, there are easy ones, right? There's abuse, physical, emotional, sexual. There's family makeup or dysfunction, different. There's learning issues. There's so many different things, reasons why people got to the way they are, that not judging them is so easy. Because you're really just saying, I cannot imagine what that person went through, and therefore it would so totally not be right for me to judge them. What about if you grew up with them? What about if you grew up in the same home as them? What if it was a sibling or a cousin? How do you not judge that person? It's like, I was there also. It wasn't such a big deal. Like, what do you do? I want to explain to you how far not judging goes from a real life story. A friend of mine has three sisters-in-law. One of them, there are 3 girls in the family, that's it. One of them is in therapy. Let me explain to you what that means in therapy. She is a highly skilled lawyer, a brilliant woman, that is on mental disability since she's 35 years old. And not because she's a lazy person, but because she simply cannot function. Because of what she believes is abuse that she suffered at the hand of her parents. Now, there are 2 other completely healthy girls in this family. In addition to me personally meeting these people and knowing them, I can tell you that this woman did not suffer abuse, but understands that one person's discipline is another person's abuse. Understands that in the same family, a sibling, a cousin, a friend in the same neighborhood, you think you understand what they went through. I got that same thing, whatever that is. But one person's discipline could be translated into another person's abuse. That's how far not judging someone goes. That you think you do understand them. You have to understand that you are so far away from understanding the way they translate the same exact thing that you might have went through. And for them, it changed and affected their lives in ways that we cannot even imagine. Don't judge. Preach. Don't share. Let's try that again. Share. Don't preach. Was anyone listening? Is it? Okay. What does that mean? Who's been here the least amount of time? Raise your hand. What's your name? Where are you from? When did you get here? Yeah. You thought I was just asking like who walked in late? Thank you for sharing. No, that must have been... Let's try again. Who's been in Israel for the least amount of time? In the room. What's your name?
Eliezer.
Eliezer, when did you get here?
3 months ago.
Okay, anyone here less than 3 months? Raise your hand. Okay, you win. Extra slice of pizza. Eliezer. Eliezer, if you left tomorrow, okay, I promise you that you are different than when you came 3 months ago. True or not true?
True.
Okay? There's no one in this room that is going to go home, Pesach, at the end of the summer, next Sukkot, next Pesach, that did not change, I'm going to say, a lot since they got here. You've changed because you found beauty and meaning in something that you learned or saw. Share that beauty with someone else. Don't preach. You changed because you understand how that affects how you want that to affect you. That beauty is something to share with someone else. Let me tell you a secret. You can preach without even opening your mouth. It looks a little like this. For the older brothers in the room, it sounds like this. Did you daven mincha? It's like, oh, here's another favorite one of mine. I'm going to mincha. Just putting it out there. It's his life. It's not. Share. Don't preach. If you understand why mincha is important, find some other time, not when he's in middle of a program, to talk about how important mincha is, to have a discussion about how mincha didn't used to mean the same thing that it means to you today. Share that beauty. Don't preach. Don't ever make someone your project. Let me tell you another secret. People don't like being your project. So I'm really good at it. That's why I'm such a popular counselor. They love me because I'm so... No one wants to be a project. No one wants to have your pity. People will tell from a mile away that they're your new project. It almost never works out. If there's a very deep love that it's coming from, not nowhere else, you'll be able to influence that person in ways that they want to be influenced. But if it's just a project, if it's just like I'm going home for 4 weeks, my parents make me come home for Pesach, well, at least I'm going to get that, neighbor back in shape. Because I totally see him, I'm not judging, but I totally see him, going off the deep end. Don't make anyone your project. And finally, never miss an opportunity. Always look for new opportunities. Let me explain to you what that means. Let's talk about opportunities. So, I think I'm going to finish with this. Is that all right? Is that good? Works for everybody? Okay. Don't miss an opportunity. No, I'm not going to finish with this. I'm going to do one more after this. (1952). Okay? 1952. This country. 1958. Still this country. There's a boy in yeshiva, and he decides that he is leaving yeshiva and he is going to the army. Okay? Now, I'm explaining to you that this happened a long time ago when the army was a very different place than it is now. Personally, both my boys went to the army. Okay, fine. None of my boys went to the army. It's very hard to teach when your children are in the room. Just saying. Anyway, some of my best friends went to the army. Not judging. Okay. Back then, no matter when this happened, going to the army or going to the army from yeshiva meant you were leaving everything behind. Okay? For the purpose of this story, can everyone agree to understand what that means? Okay. This boy decides he is going to the army. And there is nothing anybody can say or do to him to change his mind. He is leaving yeshiva to go to the army. We all know what that means. He is waiting for the mashgiach, for the Rosh Yeshiva, for someone from the Anhala to call him in and read him his rights. Tell him how this is the end of all future Doros that will ever possibly come from him. And he is a Tan. He is fast. He is strong in his commitment to leave yeshiva and go to the army. And he is waiting for that conversation, relishes that conversation should it come. Vayehi Hayom, the day before he's leaving, and someone comes over to him and says, she wants to speak to you. Walks into the Yeshiva's office. And he's played this out in his head. You know? He knows every. And the Yeshiva takes his hands.
Joseph.
That wasn't me. Says Yosef, I understand you moving on. I'm asking you a commitment. Can you commit to me one thing to take with you from your years in yeshiva? One thing. And the boy says to him, thinks to himself, he didn't see this coming, right? One thing. He's like, I can do one thing. Yeah. One thing's good. He says, I knew your grandfather. And your grandfather had a minhag to not say Tachnun on Fridays. I want you to take that with you. Yosef, soon to be Joseph, is Scratch that. We're going back. And Yosef thinks to himself, not saying Tachnun. I cannot say Tachnun on Fridays. I can do that. That's fine. I can do that. Seischem l'shalom. Yosef leaves, packs up, goes to the army. Now, for those of you that haven't been in the army, if you want to stay from in the army, if you want to daven in the morning, they're fine with that. You just have to do it before your other responsibilities. So if you're supposed to be up at 6, if everyone's supposed to be up at 6, and you want to daven, then you have to be up at 5:30, or 5:15, or 5, or however long it is that you're completely, as long as it doesn't take away from your regular schedule, right? So this is a big commitment. So he gets up Sunday morning, is there Monday morning, gets up Tuesday morning, Wednesday morning. He's 3 days in the army, right? This is really difficult. It's cold, it's dark, nobody else is getting up. I don't want to get up and put on tefillin before everybody else. This is not fun. So 5:15, his alarm clock goes off, he hits it and turns over. And then he thinks to himself, if I don't daven on Wednesday, and I don't daven Thursday, and I don't daven on Friday, when I don't say Tachnun on Friday, that's not called not saying Tachnun. It's called I don't daven anymore. In order to not say Tachnun on Friday, say it with me, you have to say Tachnun all the other days. I made one measly commitment to not say Tachnun on Friday? He gets up, he puts on his tefillin every single day for the next 3 years. He marries, he has a Torah family. He doesn't lose anything. That's an opportunity gained. That's genius in controlling yourself to say the right thing at the right time, to not push someone further away, but to be makarev them with something that could have went totally different. And with this, I'm finished. For those of you from the northern metropolitan area of New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut, please raise your hand. Those of you from Bergen County, please keep your hands aloft. Those of you from Englewood, please keep your hands in the air. Two guys from Englewood? Okay, sorry. For those of you not familiar with Englewood, it's Teaneck's less from cousin. No offense to anyone. Did I get that right?
Pretty close.
Okay. The uncle from Englewood is a Baal Kohen. He's a Baal Tefillah. Not only that, he davens Musaf at every one of the bar mitzvahs. Bar mitzvah, of course, are from Muncie and Lakewood and Brooklyn. But they're always mechabed, the uncle from Englewood, to daven Musaf. Until one bar mitzvah, when they don't know what to do because the uncle from Englewood doesn't put his tallis over his head when he davens Musaf. And what's the friends of the bar mitzvah boy going to think when the uncle from Englewood davens and doesn't put his tallis over the head? It's going to be embarrassing for the bar mitzvah boy. So you don't ask the uncle from Englewood to daven. And that, my friends, is an opportunity lost. Because this is the final Kiruv tool. And it is, do not be embarrassed where you come from. Where you came from, whether it's your family or your neighborhood or your school, made you who you are. Those are opportunities that became everything you are today. When you are embarrassed of where you're from, you've created barriers between you, your parents, your grandparents, your siblings, your cousins. Take the beauty, the specialness of where you're from, and make that about who you are, because it is who you are today. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, everybody. Your full say. Let's give it up. Can they come from Shabbos?
time.
If anyone wants to go to Ramat Beit Shemesh for Shabbos, what's your email?
ravgav@gmail.com.
If anyone needs Ray Zeldman, you didn't get a chance to ask questions in the last class, mzeldman@aish.com.
I'm rafaelysait@gmail.com. RAFAELYSAIT. Menashe has the rest of the information. Is it Rebbe Rosen? Do I keep doing that? I'm sorry.
Menashe's great.
Rebbe Rosen.
Next session, January 19th, 8:30. Have an amazing 2 weeks in yeshiva. Goodbye.